Hi there. So my name's Rob Francis, and today I want to give you a sort of 5 to 10 minute chat just around freedom and our notions of freedom, and in particular Western values and UK values towards freedom. So it's effectively going to be a bit of a rant, along with a few observations, and then me kind of attempting to deconstruct the idea of freedom. Now, let's start off with the word itself. Free, dom. So free as in unfettered, unchained, free to do and be and think and express oneself without being hemmed in any way. And then the second half of the word dom, as in kingdom, land, tied up within boundaries. So we can already see, just within the term itself, the slippery nature of freedom. Because on one hand, it's completely unfettered and boundaryless. And on the other, it's within a margin, within a set of either values or definitions or geographical location. Now, here in the UK and in the West generally, we accept freedom as a sort of utopian goal, and also as a birthright, one which we, the privileged, are allowed to exist in. Now, what we rarely do well is question where this state comes from and what it's bound upon. Now, in here, I've already used the terms allowed, accept, bound. And as such, we can already uncover interesting issues just in terms of definition. Freedom is something that we accept. And as such, we automatically unaccept non-freedom. Freedom is bound by this dichotomy and contradiction. Now, just listen to these first few minutes over again. I've asked where this state comes from and speak about freedom as a goal, as a state. Now, here's another issue. Freedom is something that's manufactured. It's set up through the structures of power that organise society. It's organised and dissipated through the constantly moving set of symbols that constitute truth, reality, and order. What are these symbols? And where are they created from? They are political, educational, religious, familial, and so on and so on. So we, the West, say we have freedom, but must be alert to how that freedom is set up through the institutions that structure and organise power, and truth, and order. And this is nothing new. This was set out by Father Foucault and his merry band of post-structuralists. But here's an example. The UK is free. Now, in the main, we would probably all agree with this statement. We have ostensible freedom of speech and movement. We can choose our fields of work, models of transport, diet, toothpaste, brand of American pop drink, which newspapers to ignore. Yeah, we're free. Now, silly jokes aside, we accept a type of freedom. A type of freedom, got that loaded with even more issues. Maybe I'll come back to that. But a type of freedom that perhaps doesn't exist in North Korea, for example. But let's pick this UK specific freedom apart a bit. Much of our attitude towards freedom is tied up with ideas of choice. We tell ourselves that choice provides freedom. We have rules, but we can make choices that measure up to our expectations of being. So we are tied within a structure of rules, but have a kind of ostensible freedom that we all accept and get on with merrily. For example, right now I'm doing a video to you on YouTube, sat in my jeans and t-shirt. That's been I've been enabled through my life choices, my privilege, and etc. So my freedom, as well as this UK choice-based freedom, is molded around who can earn choice, who can earn the ability to express and have voice, or even what diet to select. On the other hand, and as a counterpoint, a homeless man can't earn enough to afford the choice of what to eat, can't afford the choice of where to sleep. And the counter to that, the further point to that is that the homeless man cannot be given and has not earned the freedom to vote, to have his voice counted, and so on and so on. And I know there's an argument to suggest that the homeless man may have consolidated all of life's problems into one or two things and is, in fact, because of that, more free. That's not my point. And I'd also say, tell that to him next time you walk past him on a midnight, freezing December evening with his methadone shakes. What I'm suggesting here is that the UK type freedom is a sort of capitalist or even late capitalist model, one of hierarchy and one that is powered fiscally. So if we can trace where the UK's wealth comes from, then we could arguably pinpoint where we source our choice-based freedom from. On the 5th of April 2017, Theresa May, our current Prime Minister, our in charge of UK freedom representative, is in talks with leaders from Saudi Arabia. Now, we've done tons of trade deals with these guys before. They're friends of freedom. In lots of ways, they contribute to the UK's wealth, and as such, they're partially responsible for our sense of freedom, our choice-inspired freedom. So when we're being free, when we're watching TV or wasting oil or something, we can thank the same system where no jury trials sentence gay people to death by 1,000 lashes, and where women are stoned to death for the crime of being raped. Now, this supports our freedom. This forms part of the structures of power that enable our freedom. And this links back to my initial comments about how freedom exists as a form of acceptance. And by freeing or accepting one thing, we're imprisoning or neglecting another. And I mean that both in terms of the slipperiness of its definition and also quite literally in terms of the institutes that we trade with and that are intrinsically tied up with our notions of freedom and our current state of freedom. Now, in the interest of balance, here's another extreme example. Not too long ago, a London art gallery put on an exhibit of right-wing artists. Now, this started a plethora of protests and social media-based anger. The main argument being that the artwork was offensive, racist, inciting hate, and should not be on display. And that's the crucial point here. The protesters said should not be on display. So they're essentially suggesting that this kind of freedom of expression antagonizes their sense of freedom. Freedom of expression is fundamental to our freedom-based ontology. Yet it can only be expression which is permitted within our value structure. Our freedom, then, is not based on uncontrolled acceptance or unconditional acceptance. It's ruled and forged by a liberal morality that does not allow for the freedom of non-liberal morality. Let me just conclude here then. Freedom undoes itself. It can never be. It's a myth. It's a state which is fixed to start with, where one is ostensibly unaccountable, but in fact is so only under the framework of the acts and values that underpin freedom. Freedom relies, on one hand, on the acceptance of anything, and on the other, on bringing those who disrupt that acceptance to account. Freedom can never be, as it exists entirely on definitions that are always relative, more often than not binary. And as such, exclusivity and elitism conduct its nature. To say, I am free, is to acknowledge the order of freedom and one's subjugation to it.